Hold tight.
Hold on to your hats, boys.
Libas.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week.
Just what the flipping Nora are you lot doing?
I'm still in there. I'm still right behind him.
It was just a very well thought out tactical plan by Danny.
I want goals!
I can literally feel the steam coming out your ears.
So it's like a fun little post-game snack.
The Wednesday Week.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to a very special bonus episode of the Wednesday Week. It's Thursday, and my apologies if I'm getting in the way of your Eurovision semi-final song contest plans, but, you know, stop the count now. Sweden's going to win it with Bara Bara Bastro. So, you know, you can watch us instead. I'm calling it now. If you want to get a bet on, that's where it's going to be. It's all about Sweden. Sheffield Wednesday tonight, this afternoon, have issued their retention list. And to go through the list, joining me tonight, I've got Stevie, Ash and John. And join us later on to make sense of it all, to sum it all up, will be Sheffield Stars' Joe Cran. He'll be joining us. But most importantly, boys and girls, you're going to get involved tonight as well. We want your comments on each player. We want to get you involved, and we want to see what you guys are saying about it. Normally, this is where I ask you what you got up to this week, but we did all that earlier on. So shall we just get straight into it, chaps? Ash, are you going to man the comments? Yes,
I will do, mate. As always, of course, I'll be right on the finger on the pulse and all that good stuff. So you know,
I feel like you're lying to me, but we'll give it a go anyway. So we had options exercised. We had people seeing out the end of their contract, and we also had the loanees go back home. Now, if I go down the list, and there'll be a couple in there. Excuse me, a bit of windy pops. That we're going to go down the list, there'll be a few in there that I've not really put in. I've not put Ben Hamer in, for example, because there aren't any pictures exist of him either, and I've got some snazzy graphics ready. Now, it's had a run out this week, but we're going to do it for real life now. So I'm going to get as much legs out of this as I
don't
can.
you tease me. I'm excited.
it's coming.
Let's do it. And there you all thought you saw the last of it, right? You know what I mean? And I will warn you, that does get in your head for an entire week. Okay, then. So let me get my list up. First one that was mentioned on the subject from the club was the captain himself, was Barry. Any surprises there, folks? Anybody shocked by it? There is an element of we do need to start preparing for life after Barry. You know what I mean? He's not a young man. He's still technically gifted our best player. And we've lost Shea Charles a little bit. I mean, Stevie, have you got anything to add about Barry getting an extension?
I think it's not a surprise. It's not unexpected. I think it's total logic. And I know that latterly he's getting a little bit older and he can be a little bit more divisive than he has been sort of 5-6 years ago, but for me he's still our best player. And I have favorite players. He's still the best player that we've got, and I firmly believe that he will still have a big part to play next year. I see him transitioning now, not necessarily next year either, by the way, but I see him transitioning from a captain, a mainstay in that first team squad. It's coming. I think he'll transition away and start to get involved in a little bit of the coaching. But I see him as a lifer, and I welcome it, if I'm honest with you. I think he's been a loyal servant, and when you're talking about people that deserve to be held in high regard, he's up there with the best of them, as far as I'm concerned.
I think that's what's going to happen. There's a few comments echoing just what you've said there. John, I'll remove the graphic because I can't see you from behind Barry. Anything to add about El Capitan?
Pretty much similar views to Stevie, to be honest. I mean, we signed this guy back in 2016 ish, and we nearly 10 years on. There's been people think that we've every season at least a handful of fans will say we need to move on from him, but every season it's like it proves impossible to move on from because we don't get anybody in to fill his shoes. We don't do it. I mean, at one time we had Kieran Lee, but it was more of a complement rather than a replacement. But since then, we've gone through a plethora of midfielders outside of him. But he's the ever present, and he's Mr. Sheffield Wednesday, isn't he? He loves the club. He's taking coaching badges, so he's got a view to, maybe one day being a Sheffield Wednesday manager. He's just, even though we're outside the top league and have been for a good while now, he's still a club legend, and I think we will. I agree. I think we'll see him retire with us. To be honest, I can't see him going anywhere else.
Yeah, he's very much got Sheffield inside him. Do the comments agree, Ash?
Yeah. Do you want to hear my thoughts first?
I was hoping you were going to put it in, but if you need directly asking, I'll go straight in. What about you, Ash? Where do you stand on Barry Bannan?
Yeah, I think this was the one that was nailed on. There was no way on hell on earth that he wasn't going to get another year's contract. His 10 years will be up at the end of June next year, so he'll be itching for a testimonial, won't he? So he was always going to sign. Devil's in the details for me. Hopefully, it's on well-reduced wages, and obviously with a view of reduced game time and going into coaching or something like that. So
yeah, I think there might need to be some kind of things put in place like that. Go on, Stevie.
Why does he need reduced game time?
Because to move on. So if you watch Twitter today and everyone's saying, "Oh, we've offered Pato a new deal, so why can't we move on?" We've got to start moving on. And I think if he's still here, yes, he deserves another year. But if he plays 20 games or 30 games next year instead of the 40 plus that we've been relying on him, we've got to move on. You can't. It's harsh because I understand the servant he's been, and I agree giving him a year because he does deserve the testimonial at the end in June. And no doubt he will get a much better testimonial than Liam Palmer, because Liam Palmer's, and I'll say this because I was involved in organising it. It was shit. It was a shit show for the lad, weren't it? Really. It'd
have been good if there was some goals.
No, I meant the whole event of it. It wasn't testimonial. It was a friendly that they went, "Oh yeah, Palmer, have your
have a program. Have a program.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going off the thing. So yeah, but I think with the money, the situation, people are commenting on other people that have been offered contracts, saying X, Y, Z. I think for me, devil in the detail. Yes, give him another year, but with
I think game time's an interesting question, Ash, and the reason is that we've tried to move on from Barry. A number of managers have come in and tried to, replace him somewhat, but every time he's sat out of that team,
he hasn't, though, has he?
If he's been suspended or if he's been injured or something like that, we tend to have had our arse handed to us, or we've been unconvincing at best. And I don't feel that having him around is going to help us move on from it. But do you know what? Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save exactly this for the hot topic at the back end of the show. Let's do that, because I think that's a good discussion.
I got a comment.
Go on, do it.
Craig, he says Ash is not wrong, to be honest.
I've got a comment. It's the one that sticks. Yeah. Go on, yeah.
Mads Ward, he says Bazza just needs young legs around him. He's still class.
Don't we all, Mad Ward? Don't we all?
Martin Beebe, Bazza deserves to stay. When he leaves, should be in his hands now. But then that goes to the thing of, are we running or whoever it is who's made these decisions, are they running the club right if you're handing out year extensions because he deserves it?
Let's put Barry Bannan right now. Let's save this for the hot topic before Stevie gives me one of his 4-minute John Oaks. Come on then. All right then. So let's move on. Next one is Akin for Maywo. Somebody whose game time was hampered by injury for a certain amount of the season just gone, but I felt like he'd come into his own playing championship football. John, I feel like he was a better player in the championship than he was League One.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? And I think he certainly was better in a back three, wasn't it? Which is where we predominantly used him, being that naturally left, on that left side, being left-footed as well. Were also something that seemed really important to Danny as well, trying to get that balance right with somebody left-footed and playing in that back three on that left side. And I did think he was doing well. He's just been incredibly unlucky with with injuries, going down so early, which gave others the opportunity, as we'll come on to speak about. But yeah, I thought he did. He was doing really well, and just really unlucky with injuries. I like Mayweather. I think he's still got a lot of upside, but it's just been a shame that his progress so far has been hampered with unfortunate injuries that he's been getting.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Not a surprise there, Stevie, in terms of a contract extension.
No, right age or a good age. If you're looking at the players that we've got in the squad, he's the kind of player that you'd want to be retaining. The injury has hindered him, hampered him. But whilst he was playing for us, he has developed and grown, as John has just said, into a real stalwart within the team. And he was derided at times when we played a flat back four and he was playing at left back. But that three, where he's playing left centre half, is, he made that position his own. And it just so happens, obviously, Max Lowe went in and did something similar. But I think it's a great idea to retain him. I think he's got, as John again has said, has got a great upside. I'd hope that he signs, and I hope that we see him, have a decent run in the side next year.
Ash?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think same with John. He was unlucky with injury. I thought he'd come into it a bit. I thought he was playing well, and he looks comfortable at that left of centre, or even left of a back three that we saw last season before he got injured. I'm happy with that. You're always going to look at what I just mentioned with Bannon as well, is the money side of it, because we all know we ain't got a pot to piss in. So it's all right saying about them, and I think to replace him, or we will do, because other people have left, it's going to probably cost more than what it is to keep him, if that makes sense. I don't know how much money he'll be on as contract-wise, but surely it won't be as much as trying to bring. So I'm looking at it like that. Which
I think that's a good point, Ash. I think that's a really good point. Like, in order to replace him would cost us significantly more as what it would to extend his deal, right?
I would think so.
The other thing on that, sorry, Dan, to interrupt. The other thing on that is that if he signs a contract and has a decent 6 months, when we're talking about having assets, he's somebody that might, if you look at people that we go and sell, he's the kind of player that might attract interest from other clubs that'd be willing to, take a punt on him. Because what is he, 25, 26? That's a decent age, isn't it?
I think one of those,
total sense on all levels.
Yeah, if we'd have gone down, but he was still under contract, they'd have been circling like sharks to get for Mayweather Championship clubs, definitely.
I agree. Do the people out there agree, Ash?
Yeah, Izzy, Nick, for me, she's fine with left-foot defenders who don't just imitate cardboard cutouts of themselves are really difficult to find. Much improved until injury. Once again, Mad Ward, he was standout until his injury.
Yeah, he was.
Fam deserves to stay. Right decision.
Yes, Fam.
Gary's made a good point. I know we'll get onto it as well. He said these are all offers, aren't they? So they could refuse.
I don't know.
I suppose. Maybe. Depending what the thing is.
That's a bigger question, isn't it? Because we're talking about retention and movement tonight. What happens? There'll be an emergency podcast next Wednesday when 3 of them decide that they're not going to sign on because of whatever's going on, and what does that mean for the entire club? So,
emergency podcast. Who do we think we are? All right,
John,
then. So,
sorry, John Wakefield just said he's not convinced for Mayweather will sign. So,
I think that's a solid point because I think his stock's high and there's an opportunity. He feels he might be able to get a bigger club or club higher up in the league. But that's not to say that the manager will have a hand in it. And I think someone commented there that we need to get the manager sorted out while these players are considering these contracts, because as it stands, we've got Danny touting himself around Europe, and who would Mayweather play for next year? Does he want to come back and be playing for Tony Mowbray or something like? You know what I mean? You don't know, do you? However, moving on from that, those two I feel aren't a surprise that we've offered new deals to those players, but this one I feel is a little potential got to be divisive. Now, he got something like 10 starts on the bounce towards the back end of the season, Ash. Relatively prolific based on, on the opportunities he's had on the pitch. I think he's a huge character to have around, and I quite like him. And he's played a lot of games at this level. But Callum Paterson, I feel, is an asset to some extent.
You've got the head over heart type of thing here, haven't you? Because I think Pato, towards the latter stage of the season just gone, has become a bit of a cult player, hasn't he? I think but he does a job all over the pitch, but you know what sort of job that is. And to go back to what I said earlier about other players, we've got to be moving on, haven't we? And there's going to be hard decisions for whoever it is making those decisions to let people go. And I go back to what we're looking at. Yes, he might not cost much to replace him, but what he offers you and what he's probably being paid may be a good deal. And like people have said, they are just offers as well. All these that we're on about, aren't they? They're not. So
this one's an offer, and I feel that he will probably take it because he is a bit of a cult hero. Don't get me wrong, but I feel that this season specifically, he managed to get himself in sublime shape, Stevie. And again, like I say, in terms of his starts to goals ratio, it's right up there with the rest of the team, right?
Yeah. He's played his way back into the reckoning under the previous manager, under the manager last season. Oh my goodness me! Under the manager last season, and I think he's been value for it. I'm not his biggest fan. I'll be the first person to admit that. But you look at his history over, the last 2-3 seasons. He's come up with some really important goals. We know where they are. They're going to live in folklore at Sheffield Wednesday for years to come. I've no issue with him having a contract extension because we have this conversation. We talk about these players tonight. My big thing, and we'll touch on it later. If he goes and we release him, who are we going to get in that's going to do the job that he does and will be as valuable as he is to the squad? He's played a lot of time, a lot of games last season out on the right, but he's equally adept through the centre. If push comes to shove and we need an emergency centre half, we could go and stick him in there. He could do a job anywhere. So for me personally, a utility player such as that, whilst I'm not his biggest fan, I appreciate the cult status that he's earned himself. He seems to be a bit of a character around the club, and I think in the sort of period of time that we're going to find ourselves over the next sort of year or so, he's going to be a person that will be really important to Sheffield Wednesday off the field equally as much as on the field for me. So yeah, I think it's a good bit of business.
I genuinely think that there's a role for him, John. I feel like that there is we speak a lot about his versatility in terms of positions, but he's been playing up front recently and we've been reaping the rewards. Do we need to play him at right back?
No, not really. I mean, that was his position when he came through in football, wasn't it? But that was a long time back now. That was when he was playing his trade in Scotland. But
when he just had dark hair.
Yeah, exactly. Before the grey came along, and he's moved around a lot. And we even played him on the wing, didn't we, towards back end of last season? And although he'd not got the pace, he was putting some quality crosses in for some of our players in that box. Some really good balls into the box there. And it's funny because we could, as we'll come on to it, but it's funny how two players go different directions because they find themselves out of favour, get themselves back into the picture, get playing time, grasp that opportunity, and then one gets offered a contract and one doesn't. And as we'll come on to speak, but contract years are a funny thing because we used to get it a lot with Atinuki, didn't we? He'd get so many detractors, and then when it was contract year, he turned into Ibrahimovic, didn't he? I mean, players know if they want to be around, they're comfortable in an area, they're settled in an area. They've got kids at school in Sheffield, and if they're comfortable and they want to stay at a club and it's contract year, it's a natural motivation for them to do better. And often you'll see that when they do get that opportunity, they come in, they grasp it, and they get offered a contract. We've seen it before, and now, and I think he deserves to be offered a contract. He stepped up to the plate. He has been frustrated. He was told at one time, in no uncertain terms, he wasn't part of the future of the club. But he didn't mope around. He didn't demand a transfer. He didn't. He bided his time. He got his opportunity, and he's took it. And fair play to him. I think he deserves a new contract.
Has it been divisive in the comments, Ash, about Callum Paterson?
Not divisive. Obviously, there's the detractors like our good friend Blair. I don't think he's a fan of Pato. Gets booked and gives away too many fouls, and he's shit on the ball. Karen's message: he's a great utility player and hope he takes the offer. Love him. Owen, of the players we've got, you could boot him up in the air 9 times out of 10. So there is a lot of love for Pato. Jay Bloggs has come as a different angle. I think Pato contract offer tells us we are not getting much quality in. So he's gone with the way we're off.
I've got another take on that, but I don't know. We might save it for later or whatever. But
no,
yeah,
say it now.
Well, think of it this way, and I don't want to go down another rabbit hole because we've done it on a previous pod. But let's just say, for instance, that things might happen in the background that we don't know of. What you're going to do? You're not going to go out. You're going to sign the players. You're going to sign your core players that you've still got, and you still think can do a job for you, and still at face value and cheap in essence, because you can't just, let's just say, all right, that somebody's interested in buying a club, and I don't want to go on a tangent about that because we've done it already, but let's just say that somebody's interested in buying a club, right? You're not going to, these things take months. It might even roll into start of next season, so you can't just go out and buy X player, Y player, Z player, because you don't know if the takeover will go and succeed, and you don't know who the new player. New
Are you talking about the embargo that comes with when a bid is in?
Not necessarily. I think it's just that if we don't know where we stand with Chance here, we do. He's not openly, he said he didn't want to sell the club, but then there's all these murmurings and stuff like that. So if you're actually talking about stuff, because it has gone quite silent now, hasn't it? And that some people say that's the time when things could be happening because you don't broadcast it on social media.
John, do you know something we don't? I feel like you're ITK in here. And like, why haven't you told us? We've got a group chat.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna check it. I only go on forums like some other fans do, and I'm not taking in the know people as being correct or anything like that. But I just think that if with Chance's family coming over, a period of silence like we've got right now, perhaps something is going on in the background and we're not aware of. And what I'm saying is, if that is happening, hypothetically, then you ain't going to rush out and buy a load of new players. You're going to keep hold of what you've got because these things are going to take months. Because if it doesn't work out, you've still got the players and you build on. You're back to square one. You're right. Okay, we've got us core players. This is the squad we've got now, and we'll try to add to it. But if it does go through, then you've done it in the cheapest way possible. New owners can just go in and say, right, yeah, thanks, Pato. Off you go. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Hell of a point, John. Hell of a point. I have you got much to add there, Stevie? While we get on to the loans that are moving out.
I think John's tried to make the point from a different angle that I was going to try and say, in that when people are talking about I think the previous comment that came up was one that was, it's an indication of where we're going to be shopping this summer. And I don't think that's a fair comment or a fair statement at all. As it stands tonight on Thursday, we've got a League One playoff that's taking place in the background of my office here. The season's still alive at the minute. It doesn't actually cut, and the deadline is May the 17th. Then you've got the contracts that will end on, I think it's June. Is it June 30th or May 30th? Whenever the contracts end, and then that's when the season kicks in. All this business that's going around in the background. Yeah, there's going to be people that are talking. The reality is we haven't got a management structure at the moment that knows whether it's going to be at Sheffield Wednesday or elsewhere. That's as plain as day. However, we have to be seen to be doing right by these players based on the Championship, the EFL's deadlines. So we have to be in a situation where we've got to either retain players or release. We've taken a decision. Whoever's made that decision, many people will argue on Twitter tonight that it's Dapon Chansiri that has released this player, that player, and the other player. And if you look at the micromanagement, it probably is. However, we had to do something, and the players that we've released are going to go, and the players that are going to stay are either going to be valuable additions to the squad, or they're going to be supplementary, that we can either move on or they'll end up being bit part players again. And I think Pato, bottom line is he's either going to be a squad player next season, he's going to be a starter, or he's going to be somebody that will shift. And, that's where we are with him.
Well, last couple of comments on Pato.
Go on.
Game changer. No one in the squad else does what Pato does. Scotch 24. Pato brings that special something. He gets under the skin of the other teams. And Mohammed, I like Pato's effort, but surprised we want to keep him.
I didn't think you were gonna. I didn't think you were gonna post those ones, Ash, because Mad Ward went with well said, John, and then and then Martin went with what's going John going on about shit or get off the pot. So you know what I mean.
I don't.
What's happening?
It was just a theory. It's not. I don't know anything.
Yeah. I reckon he knows something. Are you Chance Series advisor? Is that where it is, John? You know what I mean? Yeah. I was going to say.
Can we get John saying I don't know anything for the opening credits next season?
Yeah. Let's get in. Now, we've had the loans ended. This is no surprise. I don't think we need to expand on this more. James Beadle and Shay Charles have gone back to their parent clubs, which are Brighton and Southampton, respectively. I am not emotionally ready for Shay Charles to come to Hillsborough. So if anybody's looking at signing a player who'd be really good in the Premier League, can somebody take him off Southampton? They need the money. And James Beadle, I think the pair of these, regardless of Beadle's form towards the back end of the season or the middle of the season before he got dropped for Pierce Charles, I think the pair of them are going to have a great career. I genuinely feel that they're gonna be great players going forward. I think when Beadle, what is it your nan said to you, when he fills out, I think he's going to be a great goalkeeper. And I think there's parts to his game that he needs to learn that he's not going to find at Oxford or at Sheffield Wednesday. And I feel like he needs to go somewhere that's got a bit more quality in order to make him a better goalkeeper. Shay Charles we're going to miss though, aren't we, Ash?
Yeah, of course. He's probably this may be I might be going a bit early here, but this could be a question for a summer tweet or something about the best loan players we've ever had type of job. I do seriously think that he is a good player.
Yeah, we call that the Kenwyn Jones chat. I don't think anybody's had a more successful loan period in the history of football. But let's go to the players that have been released. Some are quite shocking, and some are, well, yeah, I get it. First one on the list was Stuart Armstrong, came from Vancouver Whitecaps in what's got to go down in history as one of the worst January transfer windows anybody's ever seen. And Armo, Stevie, has been released. We saw some flashes of what he could do. There was some blood and thunder tearing around him, but it's just not really landed for him. Do you feel like his game time was curtailed and he couldn't really get up to the pace of the Championship, or do you feel like, is what it is?
I don't know if he was injured, lacking match fitness. There were bits here and there. There is no disputing, and I think he's a one who, if we could have retained, and I know that I've got a theory that we couldn't, but if we could have retained him for next season, I'd have happily had him, because I think he's got that quality. He played in the Premier League last year. He played in the team that got into the Premier League last year, scored some important goals for Southampton, and was in and around that promotion-winning side. And you could see it. When he came on for his little cameos here and there, he was a level above. He genuinely was a level above. For whatever reason, it didn't work out. The Bannon Shea link in the middle of the park, that was something that was working really well for us. And then I think he had a couple of niggles here and there. He wasn't necessarily totally match fit. It's no major surprise to me personally that he's gone, because I suspect with length of contract and circumstances that are around it with the manager and him coming in the manner that he did, it feels to me like this one might have been a bit of a, can you do me a job till the end of the season? We'll pay you over the odds. So when Ashley's talking about contract, the salaries and the length of contracts, etc., it would make no sense, unfortunately, in my opinion, to keep Stuart Armstrong, as much as I like him as a player. And I think if he had a decent pre-season under him, he'd be a very important player for him. For us, I just don't think we can afford him.
John, I solid points there. I ain't got much to add.
Yeah, I mean, just looking, 11 games, 1 assist, had some injuries, never really looked match fit, did he, fully. I think it was more of a signing that you do in the summer rather than in the January window, given the league that he'd come from, given his age, and given how many games he'd got with us to make an impact. I agree with Stevie. I think that there's probably been a financial incentive on a short-term basis there to come and do a job for us. But I think he turns 33 shortly as well, certainly before next season. And I think at his age, he's probably looking for one last decent payday, and I don't think we'd be in a position to give it.
We are not the people for one last decent payday, but I don't think it's much of a surprise, Ash. Is it? Is it a surprise to the comments as well?
No, I think the surprise is, Dan, that we've reportedly paid some money for him, and then five months later he's left. So I think, do you know what I mean? I think that's the surprise. That
there was a couple $100,000 involved, weren't there, or something like that? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, it's people are just agreeing with what you've said. Like, Stu looked good when he got game time. Izzy says he never got fully fit. I feel if he could have been good for us, clearly didn't quite get the run that he needed. And Jay Block says, I think the injury got in the way of regular performances. What we did see was good quality. And I agree with that.
I think you're right. I think it's been an unfortunate time for him at Sheffield Wednesday, and all good luck to him. Now, this next one just makes me sad. This one I'm devastated about. You know, there's always one or two in the released list that makes you go, oh God damn it. That's harsh. Yeah, George Byers being that one. For me, it's Michael Ehekwe. I am absolutely devastated about Michael Ehekwe. I think he's been immense. Having that extended run in the team because of injury, this is another player that we spoke about that was told his game time was going to be curtailed somewhat. But I am, Ash, I'm gutted, mate. I'm gutted.
I am as well. I am. I think it was documented that there was him and Smith. I think was said that there were surplus requirements at the start of the season, and then I think both of them have come into the season and been quite pivotal players, to be honest.
Yeah.
So for obviously different reasons, Smith came in because we couldn't hit a barn door with a fucking whatever the
banjo's ass.
That's it. And Ehekwe is coming because of injuries. And for me, toward the last, 12, 15 games, probably one of the most consistent players form-wise.
Yeah.
I don't know, is he 32? 33?
Yes.
32. So,
yep.
Yeah, another centre-back. Yeah, I would have had him. But then again, he may have intimated he didn't want to just be a backup. He wants to go and play first-team football at League One, maybe. So I think I'm gutted that he's going, but I've got no ill feeling towards him. And he still didn't answer the question of who's the greatest ginger goalkeeper that we asked him when he was sat behind us at one of the games. So, yeah.
I can tell you who it isn't. Stevie, anything to add about Michael Ehekwe?
I was just looking whilst Ash was talking, because we did the bios for the players of the season, and he was nowhere near it and was told that he could leave at the start of the year. And, you know, that's not a major secret. It's not an ITK thing. And he didn't kick a ball. He only played 4 times in the first 26 games. So everything he did, he only had a 20-game period for us last season, and was in the conversation for being our best centre-half, you know. Obviously, Bernard got injured, but it surprises me, this one. And I am, because it's a kind of player for the conversation we just had about Pato and whether or not we should keep or retain. I'm not saying that he would have been the talisman pivot around which everything goes, but Deshaun Bernard isn't going to be fit before the middle of September, is what we're being led to believe. So at the minute, who is going to play centre-half for us next year and do a better job than Michael Ehekwe that we've currently got on our roster, in our squad?
Callum Patterson, according to you earlier on.
You know, Iorfa divides opinion. Palmer divides opinion. You've got players there that are divisive. There's a universal sort of feel at the moment that Michael Ehekwe is that guy that could have come in and done bits for us. It surprises me. And I know that there's been a couple of pictures and rumours of him going down to MK Dons and blah, blah, blah. If he's dropping down to MK Dons after having the second half of the season at Sheffield Wednesday, something's going wrong for that man somewhere, because he could still do a job at a lower end championship team without question.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I'm going to skip over you, John. I'm going to go to the next one. Rio Hatsusa. Again, one of the products of one of the worst January transfer windows anybody had ever seen. Not really much to add, if I'm honest. Like, you give it a go, kid. It might have been interesting to see what happened in the summer, but far too lightweight. Didn't really keep up with the pace of the game. I'm being dead harsh, or it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. 6 games, fell out of, it was weird because we were chasing this guy for a while, weren't we? We were training with the club until while they were making their mind up whether to actually sign him or not, weren't they? And then they decided to sign him, and it was a good bit of PR because it was our first ever Japanese player as well, weren't it? And that would open up another avenue of attention for us, but he just didn't work out, did it? He just lost his way a little bit. Strange one, really. Strange window altogether.
But when you look at that window, when you've got Stuart Armstrong, Ibrahim Sissako's also gone, and he was on loan apparently. There was a lot of talk about that signing, and Hatsusa's now gone as well. So what a time to be alive, Stevie. Let's get into the divisive characters. First one here being for you, Marvin Johnson.
This is a guy who 18 months ago was going to be a transfer for a £1 million transfer to Ipswich, and when they were chasing the Premier League, and for whatever reason, you can say what you want about him in and around that point, somebody recognised something in him somewhere, even at the age that he was. He's kind of fallen off, hasn't he? And I feel bad because I know there's a lot of personal circumstances that have taken place around Marv, and he's been quite open on socials about what's happened. Not he has been, but it's been quite open on social around what's been going on, and people are talking about it not being the best sort of situation and time for him. And I wonder whether or not that's affected him on the pitch. But for me personally, I remember the touches that he gave us in League One, the goals, the important goals, the assists that he had, and for a period of time he was absolutely brilliant. He's an elegant, effortless player when he's at it. But it seems to me, and I hate saying this because I do actually like the guy, it was starting to unravel for him a little bit, and you could see that he was a guy that was running out of steam. And it's no major surprise that if we're going to have to sort of trim the fat a little bit, you look at the players that we've retained and the players that we've released, he's probably one that begrudgingly I'd say, yeah, it's time to go. And I know that other people say, begrudging what you're talking about, he's been absolutely shy for the last 6 months. For me, I'll remember the good times, but it's time for him to go.
I feel that you're right. There's a lot of off the field stuff with Marvin Johnson about and I felt like his head wasn't in it, and I didn't feel like his heart was in it towards the end either. And also, we've discussed at length on this program that we've played him out of his preferred position for a lot of weeks now, and I feel like that's probably had a factor on it. But I wish him all the best. I don't feel like
100%.
Sorry, Dan. I was gonna come to that. I was gonna say, for what over the last probably month on this show, we have slate, and rightly so, on what he's perceived to have not done, on how he's been on the pitch. I don't know ill will to him. He's obviously He's probably one of the best assists that I've seen. That outside of the foot pass to Windass, that one against I can't remember who it was against now, but then obviously the crossing for Aidan Flynn. So he will go down as in Wednesday folklore for that alone, and the whole situation about the first few months of the season where he was training, when we mentioned this, training on his own in Dubai, weren't it? Kicked out of the club. He could have, and he could have spat his dummy out and been really petulant about it, which we think he could well be, but he didn't. He came back because of the change of manager, and he was instrumental as well last season. So absolutely. yeah, fair play to him. I think he's for what the Blade said about him when we signed him. Again, when they comment, don't they, on ex-players? I think he's been a good servant. It's just a bit shame that the last few months has been a bit sour. But taking that away, I think he's been a good player.
I agree. Last one that's been released is for you then, John. Ash, if you don't mind just chucking the comments as we go, by the way. I feel like I'm slowing everything down here. But John, last one on the released is Paul Valentin. I can't work out if this is a surprise or not, because there was a period last season where Marvin down the left and Valentin down the right was our best way. But that's when we were playing with the 3 centre backs and the 2 wing backs. And I feel that this release and Marvin's, if this had been a year ago, they'd have been offered new deals. But I feel like we've moved on from that formation. Would you agree?
There's definitely a tactical element to it there. Yeah, definitely. I mean, just looking at last season, he gave us 34 games, a goal, 4 yellow cards. He was one of them players that I think you were clamouring for him to get a game when the team was having poor results and he wasn't coming on. And then he'd come on and he'd look lively, but he was a bit of a one-trick pony, wasn't he? He'd get the ball down the wing, and you know that he'd just try and put his head down and take it to the line, old-fashioned style in many ways. But I think defenders worked him out pretty easily, and I just think he just lost. Once they sussed out what his game were, he'd lost any kind of effectiveness. So I think he were a victim of tactical change and opposition defenders working him out, to be honest, Dan. And I think he was another one that was linked away as well last season. I think there was a foreign club there was a foreign club that was sniffing around him at one time. I can't remember what league it were.
Turkey, I think it was.
Turkey.
That's right. Yes, there was. And I did call him Paolo One Trick for the last 6 months. Yeah. So, but I think Mad Ward's summed it up there. Decent, nice guy, good pay. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then that one that Izzy Nicholson put up saying that right back is an easier to be. What did you say? Great going forwards, less great going back. I feel that right back is an easier position to recruit than a lot of others, and I get it. If we were still playing that 5 at the back, 3 at the back, however you want to say it, I feel like he'd be in with a shout, because he was very good at getting forward and hitting that byline. But I feel like our tactics have moved on finally from that from the 3 centre back array that we had. Now there's been some options extended, Stevie. Chaz is going to be absolutely buzzing about this one, and just like Callum Patterson, I felt like he's played his way to earning this. Got told at the beginning of the season he's welcome to go, he's welcome to see you later. But Smudge has been offered a contract. What a season this guy's had. On the whole, there are times when he's absolutely blowing out of his ass, where he's grafting. He could start a fight in a phone box. But again, with Pato, I feel that he offers something that, what's the term that people use? Every toolbox needs a hammer. And Pato and Smudge are those. And I feel like when you're playing on a smaller pitch against teams like QPR at their gaff, Smudge and Pato are what you need. Blood, sweat, and piss.
He still shouldn't be.
You can go on then. You go. Why not?
Because he's not good enough. He's going to be a year older. We've got. It's my thing, but once again, you go back to we want to be moving on, don't we? We've got Cadamartra coming back. We hopefully you will strengthen up front, because for me, I just don't think I don't think he will be effective next season.
I understand where you're coming from, and my response comes from a place of love, because I largely agree with you, but I just think we've got to be very careful with the Cadamartra talk. He's a lad who's done all right for Lincoln in League One. So if we're talking about a lad, we're talking Bailey Cadamartra, aren't we?
Yeah.
I'm not Matt.
Yeah,
I'm not calling for a 15-year-old or whatever to play up front.
Well, I've got a theory on that, but that's a conversation for another time. I'm not sure that chucking our eggs in the Cadamartri basket is the right way to go necessarily. The Charlie McNeil one is not necessarily the right way to go. We're talking about having to move on, and I agree with the having to move on conversation, but I very much believe that you only need to move on if we're moving on to something better. And Smudge staying, we've got you talk about the Portsmouth goal, you talk about the impact that he's had. He scored against Swansea, I think it was, scored against Norwich. Was it Norwich? I think when we were 2-0 down and ended up winning 3-2. He's come with some key goals that made him a bit of a clutch player. I'm not his biggest fan. I'm not a Charlie, a Smudge stan like Charlie is. But I come around to the thinking that this guy will be an impact player for us next year if he signs on. Am I right thinking he needs to sign on? If he stays, he's,
No, I think we've extended an option on him, so I think it's happening. I believe.
Okay, so if that be the case, then for me, I don't know whether or not he starts week in, week out, but he started 26 games, I think it was, from the bench this season anyway. So if he continues to do what he's doing this year, fine, because I'm not sure what we'll get that's better. And we've had 3-4 transfer windows now where we've talked about somebody coming in up front or getting a loan player from a Premier League team that he's going to come and score his 20 league goals, put himself in the shop window, etc., etc., etc. That's not a one transfer window situation. We've been talking about this for nearly 2 years now. It's not happening. So unless somebody can tell me where we're going to get a better output than Michael Smith in the current circumstances that we're in, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think he's going to be one of those players that'd be expensive to replace, and I think we've got a decent striker waiting in the wings, but I still don't feel like he's the finished article. I feel like Cadamartri's got something there, but for some reason I don't know what it is, and it might be George Hurst who might have burnt my fingers with it, but I feel like his dad's sniffing around to get him a better deal at another club. I don't know why, but there seems to be some touting, but I'm reading between the lines on a few posts on online. The other option extended, John, was a surprising one for me. No, sorry. Surprising is a ridiculous thing to say. He's our most prolific striker of this millennium. He's our most prolific goal scorer of this millennium. He'll go nuts if he hears me calling him a striker. But he's been super hot. And he's been a bit cold in some games. But I genuinely thought that there was some kind of thought process that he was moving to the States because that's where his missus from. We put 2 and 2 together and got 5. But we've got Josh for another season. That's not a bad thing, right? I just hope his head's in it.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it, with Josh? Because it did seem like he was looking, he's been linked with Brazil, and he's been, not the national team, obviously, but he's been linked with going to Brazil to play his trade, and he's been linked with America. It felt like some of the body language towards the end of last season, and I know he's a bit of a moaner anyway, isn't he? But some of the body language sometimes suggested that he wasn't 100% happy, and he did perhaps want to, try for pastures new. So to offer him another year, I don't know. Is that a bit of insurance?
I don't feel like we've offered it him. It feels like more we've inflicted it on him.
We so it's triggered it rather than like offered it. So is that a bit of protecting one of your better players so that you can get a fee for him should he want to move on?
I think that might be the thought process. If his head's not in it and someone offers us genuine cash money, I think it's something we should consider. Not that I want to see the back of the goal involvements that he does, because when he's on it, he's outstanding and I think he's lethal. But I feel like you're right. I feel like there's an element of, look, we're going to trigger this. Someone come and buy him, please. Well, yeah. What do you think, Ash?
Yeah, I mean, if you caught his Instagram post earlier with the Billie Eilish, was it Hostage cover, and then another one saying there was another one with this guy holding a sign up saying, "Oh, it's so 2025" or something like that. Yeah, it feels like that it is an extension, and I know people in like our LMS chat have said that it's been a gentleman's agreement type of thing that he signs, but then is allowed to leave if someone comes in for him. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not to say someone will come in for him, or they've got an offer from someone, but then why would someone make an offer if they could have got him for free? Type of thing. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I like again replacing. Look, if you, I always say it every week. There's a reason for me to say it, but if you're a stats wanker, you look at his stats and you're going to go, how do we replace that? We're in no position to replace the stats he's laid down this season. So you would go, if you took the picture of Josh Winders out of it, showed the stats and go, we can sign this player for free. You're going to go, oh yeah,
yes, please, yeah,
yes, please, aren't you? So you look at it like that, but then you take out the person that he is perceived to be, and then he's obviously got his second part of his documentary, self-funded self-thing documentary he's going to put out that may explain everything. But I'd have kept him. I mean, purely looking at him and the fact that we are a shit show that won't be able to afford to replace him. And I think McNeil, his position could be that of where Windass is, but he's nowhere near good enough at the minute to be there as a regular. So I would like to see more of him next season, but yeah, for me, no.
Fair enough. Stevie, I thought Windass would be a lot more divisive on here, but I feel like we all know that the statistics that he puts out, like Ash says, the numbers that he comes in with, because I know Ash is a big fan of the eye test. You know what I mean? It's something that we've crept in the last few weeks, but the numbers are there, right?
Yeah, they are, and that's the reason why it's an absolute no-brainer that if we've got an option to extend, we extend. And if I've not seen the Insta post. It's been a busy day. It's been a busy week. But if he is going out there and saying he's hostage, blah blah blah, I don't think that's great on him. It's not a great look. However,
I think he's been like that the entire time, though. I mean,
of course he has. You know what he's like. But for me personally, that's all of a sudden a reason for us to go as a fan base, right? Get a shot of him because he's an asset. And we talk about chance. It is the most day-upon chance theory thing to do, to go, right, this guy wants to go, but we're going to keep him. Yeah. But when you think about it, it's absolute logic. It makes absolute sense. The guy is...
Yeah, you want him, come pay me money for him.
Exactly. So there's no guarantee with Windass that he stays. We are well within our rights to exercise it. And that, for Sheffield Wednesday FC, is totally good business. It makes absolute sense. Yeah. Exercise the right on that contract, get his market value up based on the contract. I'm assuming that the exercise would mean that his contract, his wages, his salary would remain the same, which is probably a reason why he'd be upset. Well, however, because he, off the back of the season that he's had, he'd probably want an increase. He'd want something boosting to get him, a little bit more money. However, that's not going to happen. Again, financially, economically, it makes sense to keep him. If we've got the opportunity to keep him on the level that we're at, we've got to do that. But we need, if we're going to sell Josh Windass, or he's going to leave the club and we've got an opportunity to get a fee for him, then go get a fee for him.
Absolutely. Now, somebody who could probably shine a bit of light onto this, joining us from yet another continent. We're so international there. We had journalists in Canada that I offended, and then now joining us from the from Africa, it's Joe Cran from the Sheffield Star. Joe, how's it going, pal? You all right? What time is it there?
We're only an hour ahead, mate. It's all good. It's all good.
All right, that's
to be honest, retainless day is rubbish. It's one of those things you wait so long for, and then it happens, and you're just like, oh, well, that's done now. Just move on with it.
Yeah. I feel like the speculation was started to build, and then all of a sudden it just got bashed out at like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock this afternoon, and that's not like Sheffield Wednesday. I thought it to be about 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, well, it was great because we just started getting some stories out about what was going on. And
I've seen that 5 minutes later after you and Alex had done something. It's like, shit, get him out. Got to get it out.
We had these glorious plans to fill the whole front page full of all these exclusives, and I think we got 4 of them out. As it goes, all part and parcel of the job. You deal with what you deal with, and this is what when people talk about having a 9 to 5. This isn't it.
I've just thought, given the times that the club normally release their signing announcements and stuff like that, it's midnight for you, so that'd be fun for you going forward, mate, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
That'd
especially when the clock's changed and it's 2 hours difference.
Brilliant. So listen, Joe, I don't feel there's many surprises in there. Are there any that stand out to you as like, that's a bit of a tough decision to make? But I don't think there's many that's shocking everybody. I think, given the show that we've discussed tonight, the contentious ones have been Michael Ehekwe and Michael Smith to an extent. I mean, would you agree?
I wouldn't say that they've shocked me. I think Michael Smith, once we found out that Smudge had an option, for me at that point it was like, well, they're going to take it, because why wouldn't you? With the season that Smudge has proven that he can do it at championship level, it was one thing that was sort of levelled against him when we went up, that he wasn't going to be able to do it. His numbers this season have been pretty good, so I think with the option that made sense. I think with Icky, it's a strange one, because obviously he was on his way out. At one point, not that long back, he was going, and then he look. Icky's a great pro. He's a great bloke, and he was never going to down tools or anything like that. So it was no real surprise to see him force his way back in. But that being said, it maybe is. I wouldn't say it's a shock. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's a shock that he went. The one I think surprised me a little bit was Paul Valentin, because his again was an option, and given that we don't know where the squad is going to be at next season, and we don't know what we're doing, having a player that really, really loves it at the club, you can see the connection he's built with the fans has been great. I think the improvement from him has been fantastic to see as well. So to just not take an option that would have taken no renegotiation or whatever, just felt, that surprised me a little bit, but yeah, as you said, the rest were not really much of a shock. Offering Pato a new deal. I mean, he's a Swiss Army knife, and I think anyone who's read anything that me and Alex have ever written knows what we feel about Callum Patterson. So yeah, 10-year contract for me. Sort it out.
Just on Paul Valentin, in our comments, Joe, there's been quite a lot that have not happy that he's leaving, but are happy with the decision not to offer him. So that's coming from fans, and obviously the people
look
who watch this. So they're not surprised that he's not being offered.
Yeah, I think for me it's not. It's more the fact that it was an easy one to do. That like I can't imagine that Paul's on massive wages. He's very well liked. He's not the sort of person who's going to spit his dummy out when he's not playing. So I just thought from an option perspective, it kind of would have made sense just to have him around. But on the flip side of that, he didn't play that much this season. So from a footballing perspective, I get it. Like, I understand that it's, I wouldn't say it was a surprise in terms of a football side of things. I just think that maybe, given that we've got about 17 players for next season, it might be a decent way to get a start on it, especially because they've turned down offers for him. They've turned down approaches for him, and obviously now he's on his way for now.
Oh, you've just sent our fan base into an absolute frenzy now, there, Joe. Yeah, like we've turned down actual money, and then we've let him go at the end of the season for fuck all. Well,
it's a good point.
No words, not mine.
It's a good point because historically we've not been the best at selling players. And tonight we've mentioned Marvin Johnson, who supposedly we'd had some money coming from him 18 months ago from Ipswich. Paul Valentin, who've had an offer. So there's just two players that we could have recouped money. And I know what Johnson's done in the last 18 months is...
Yeah, I think that was worth
probably
more than £1 million.
£1 million, yeah. But yeah, with Paul Valentin, probably maybe 6 months ago, if you'd have took some money, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we famously don't sell players. That is not Sheffield.
What a moniker! What a moniker to have! What a great thing to nail to our headstone. But listen, Joe, one player that we haven't spoken about this evening is because we just got through the list. I mean, we've released Malik Wilkes, not really a shock. Ben Heyman, not really a shock. But the one we've extended the option on is Anthony Masaba. Had a bit of a stuttered start towards the start of the season. We spoke a lot on this show about the fact that him and Gassama never really seem to hit their stride at the same time. It's either one or the other. And we found that as Jeddy kind of dropped off towards the back end of the season, Tony was starting to look a lot more lively. Is that a surprise, or did you feel like, is that a bit of a poor season by his own standards?
I like that you've completely anglicised him to Tony, like he's your mate.
Yeah, I've gone with Tony. Tony Musab. There he is. He sells spikes that he's robbed.
Yeah, but to be honest, I think you're right. In a sense, he probably will be a little bit disappointed by how the season's gone for him. But I think that being said, Musa's numbers are pretty good as well, considering it's not been his best season. I think he was Wednesday's joint top on assists this season. So he's the sort of player. Look, he is exactly the sort of person that Wednesday should be exercising options on. He's 24 years old. He's got potential. He's got growth. Like I think there's still a lot more to come from Musa. I think we've all seen it. We've all seen those bits in games when I can't remember what game it was, but there's a point. I think it was a game last season maybe, when he just came on and he just ran the show. He was unbelievable. And when you see that sort of talent at that age, you do just think like with the right manager, with the right sort of guidance, that there's definitely a player there. And you look at someone, like I say, 24, he's now got a year left on his contract. Depending on how things go for him, we should be talking about a new deal. With Jeddy Gassama, should be talking about a new deal. These are things you should be proactive about. You should be getting these done. Or at least having the conversations about getting them done. But yeah, I think just the idea of letting Musa go for nothing would have been insanity.
Absolutely bloody nuts.
Joe, do you think any of the younger players, like the ones that have been in the youth squad and some that have been out on loan, that might be coming more into the forefront of the squad next year? You've had the youth squad. I think you've got, I don't know, they might be a bit young, but you've got like Granger's making noises in the youth team, and we know about Bailey's younger brother, but he's still very, very young as well. But then Sam Reed as well, who's been out on loan, and obviously Bailey.
There's a lot of them. I mean, Reedy's going to go. He's going to be released at the end of the season. A lot of the youngsters will move on. It's difficult with youth football because I think a lot of people look at these young players and go, "Oh, they're banging goals in under 18s, get them in the first team." But there's a big difference. Kalen Cole is a very, very exciting talent. There's a lot of clubs watching him, but he's also like 15. So the idea of bringing him into the first team is, I think you worry that if they're not quite there yet, they're going to get bullied and it's going to do more harm than good. I think the same with Will Granger. There's obviously a lot of talent there. Danny's had him up with the first team to train a little bit. But, I mean, I don't know what it was like for you guys, but when I was 15, if you put me up against a 26-year-old bloke, I'm getting flattened. Like, there's only one winner there.
The only thing I was doing 15 against 20 was drinking, not playing football at 26.
Smoking fags.
I was not a youth footballer.
I do think there are players there. Like, I mean, I'm a big fan of Sean Facera. I think Sean's got so much ability and he's such a calm footballer. I think we'll see a bit more of Bailey this season because just the nature of his growth. He's bulked up a little bit. He's had unfortunately got injured, but he's had a proper sort of season under his belt where he's been playing a bit more regularly. But yeah, I think there's Wednesday's youth system is interesting at the moment because there's a really exciting group of players coming through, but they're all a little bit too young to be part of it yet, if you know what I mean. Like a lot of the really talented boys, not to say that there aren't good lads in the 21s and stuff, but a lot of the really talented ones, the ones that the club are very excited for, they'll be part of the under 18s next season. There's a young lad called Yisa Alao who's a left back who everyone's raving about, and he's already playing with the 21s, but like whether that he's ready to make that step from 21s to seniors is a big question mark. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in pre-season because they always like to take some of the youngsters with them there. You've obviously got like Pierce Charles if he's not Wednesday's first choice next season, what's the point? then you've got you've got Gabs, you've got Atugbayo, who's done really well when he's come in the first team this season. So there are those youth players. I think, like I say, Sean and Bailey are the two other big ones. But I do think that if we keep an eye on what happens at under 21 level, there's a kid called Ernie Weaver who's just going to be stepping up to the 21s. He's very highly rated. He unfortunately missed the semi-final because he picked up a little bit of a knock before it. But people like Ernie, Mackenzie Maltby's got he's got lots of ability.
He seems to have been around for ages, doesn't he now, Mackenzie?
Yeah, I remember interviewing I interviewed Macca. He was captain of the 18s a few years back when I was covering the Youth Cup. And you often get obviously it's nothing to do with his actual footballing ability. That's a different thing. But chatting to Macca, even then, he sounded like a leader, like he sounded like a grown man, and I think that's such an impressive quality to have as a teenager. So I've been sort of watching him develop since then. I've spoken to some Scarborough fans, and he was apparently unbelievable for them. They've all said that he's got a real future ahead of him. He won their Young Player of the Season this year, so Macca could be one to watch. He's got a bit of everything as well. He sounds like a Victorian footballer, which I think is a great trait to have. But no, he's very good on the ball, and he's powerful as well. So yeah, given that we've got no centre backs, that might be one to watch.
Yeah, there you are. We've had a great comment
Ireland,
actually from Simon Oak there, Joe. Got a great comment from Simon there saying, "So can we expect Champions League in 5 years, Joe?" Am I hearing that right? I'm already excited. So you heard it here first. It's a Joe Cran exclusive.
Yeah, I mean the problem you have at youth level, like a genuine issue you have at youth level, and it's not really a criticism you can level at Wednesday, is you have no real way of keeping hold of these youngsters. You can offer scholarships, but you can do all these things, but until they've signed a professional contract, which they can't do until they're 17, any club can come at any point and just go thanks and take them. I mean, obviously there's compensation involved and stuff like that, but a lot of the time that compensation is, I mean, it can count on, it's very complicated, but there's a lot of things that count towards it, like the amount of whether they've been offered contracts before, whether they've been in positions where they've played for the first team, all these kind of work in like a tally, and it adds up. I mean, Wednesday lost a couple of players to Brentford. I don't know if you remember a few years back. I think they got £1 million for the two of them. And there was nothing they could do. Like Brentford just came and said, "We want those two," and then they went to Brentford, and that was it. So like it's all a bit complicated, and Wednesday being in the situation that they are, and this is really nice to say, as a mid-level championship club, is that when certain teams come knocking, there's not really much you can do about it.
Can I just ask you a question, Joe? And you can tell me to piss off if you want, mate.
Piss off.
No. It's obviously, we know the structure at Sheffield Wednesday is very lean. And with the manager being on holiday, should we say? In your opinion, these contracts, who makes this decision?
I think it's a bit of everything, really.
Is it like the owner and he says his advisors? He always says that, doesn't he? He always says his advisors.
I think, I mean, look, I know Danny made his recommendations before we left. Danny did make his recommendations because look, Danny's contracted for next season. That is the crux of all of this. Danny is as things stand, still Sheffield Wednesday manager. Like, I know there's been a lot said.
Yeah.
But like that is the case, and Danny did make his recommendations beforehand. I think, look, there'll be various factors involved in this. You've got Kev Bedell, who's heading up the recruitment side of things. When it comes to the youth setup, the first team manager probably won't need to get so heavily involved in that, because you'll have John Pepper, Andy Holdworth, Andy Sharp, all the young academy people. They'll be making those decisions with a little bit of input from the first team. But I think this is an interesting one this season, because I think you look at that side, and as we alluded to earlier, that there weren't many, I suppose, controversial decisions to make. I think that whether it was Danny, whether it was the chairman, whoever it was that made the final decision, yeah, I haven't seen a single person who's raging at that retain list. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's people going, oh, I might have done this differently or that differently, but I don't see anyone who's looked at it and gone, oh, well, this is an absolute disgrace. And I think that no matter what route they'd taken, unless Barry Bannon hadn't been offered a contract, I think most people would have been happy with everything else.
Yeah, I don't think we've quite got the George Byers backlash. I think that's what it's going to be referred to as going forward, if I'm honest, Joe.
Yeah.
But listen, that was absolutely box office. I really appreciate your time, so thank you very much. I wish you as much sleep as you can get throughout the summer, because I feel like, given that we've only got 17 players, I feel like you might have a busy one, Joe. Listen, if you...
in 19 now, we've exercised those options, so we're on the...
Come on! Nearly a full squad. Joe, thanks a lot for joining us, man. Listen, I can see you guys have fired some questions in. Send them to him on X, because he loves that, don't you, Joe? You're a big fan of that.
I'll copy and paste my my answer out.
Yeah, there you are. The one that says, if there's news, I'll report it. Thanks, Joe. See you later, bro. Thanks a lot, man.
Cheers, guys.
Night. That was Joe. He's give us a bit of his time, bless him. That was nice of him. So, right, I promised you to wrap this up for the last 5 minutes. I promised you a hot topic, didn't I, Stevie? So, do you want me to play the theme? Let's do it. Hot topic. I can't really remember what it was. It was something to do with Barry Bannon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ash, go.
What was it? What about my point? What was my point about Bannon? Reduced time. It was an hour and
reduced time, reduced salary.
Devil in the detail, was it? I believe I
okay.
said. Yeah.
So what was the question that was sat in there then? So do we still use Barry Bannon as we've used him before, as a first team regular, club captain? It carries on and he is, or do we start winding him down? Would that be the right way of putting it, Ash?
Yeah, I think yes, it was. Sorry, Lewis Jordan's just put your hot topic theme thing just woke the cat up. Nice one, Dan.
Yes.
It was basically my take on Bannon's contract thing. It was always going to happen. I'm okay with it happening, but the devil in the detail was reduced terms, reduced playing time, with a view to obviously doing this fabled replacing Bannon with somebody. Do you know what I mean? So if it was still on the reported 40 grand a week that Chris Wilder loves to quote, then I would say, yeah, but it is an offer though, isn't it? Again, it's one of these where we're saying that he signed, but we've offered him. So he might not want to, but I'm sure he's been here nearly 10 years. And like I say, I'm sure he'll want his testimonial. So, all right, then. So who wants to go first then? So you go on there, John. You weighed in on the hot topic.
Yeah. I'm just going to say there's a simple answer to it all, and that's get someone in better. And then he'll have less playing time. And he'll naturally, come off the bench or be sub more, get somebody better. We've been saying it since 2016. So here we go. Get somebody better.
It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
He's 30 odd years old. He got sub more times last season.
So younger and better.
Get younger and better. And nature will take care of itself.
Just gonna make it. So you're saying that you would start managing his game time somewhat. Yeah.
I think it'll naturally get managed anyway, Dan, because he's 36. He can't do full 90 minutes for 46 games a season. I think that's just, your legs go, time catches up with everybody. I think you'll naturally see him play less anyway. And the contract's the contract until you get somebody better. He's going to take their money, isn't he? You ain't got any other choice really. So.
Okay, Stevie. So John says manages game time somewhat. We should start looking to the future. I think, if I'm honest, I think the back end of this season was the first time I've ever seen Barry Bannon slow down somewhat in terms of energy across the field. Danny had no issues hooking him when it wasn't his type of game. So where would you sit on it?
I agree that he looked tired at the back end of the season. I think he's carried a couple of niggles, but I think John's hit the nail on the head, if I'm honest with you. If we're talking about offering him reduced terms and we're saying this, that, and the other about his contract status and everything else, get somebody better. Get somebody better. Get somebody who's going to go and play that position on a more regular basis and do it at a higher standard. I have no affinity to any player at Sheffield Wednesday, bar one, who I think should be playing more than any other. The best players should be the best players playing, and I genuinely believe that Barry Bannon will still be our best midfielder next season. I have been afforded the opportunity to sit with some players that have played at a decent level, and when they sit and talk about Barry Bannon, if you ask ex-pros that go and watch Sheffield Wednesday who the clutch player is, who the go-to is, they will always say Barry Bannon. And he does little bits that, mere mortals like us, if you like, don't see. The little bits that professional players at that level will say, oh, but he did this and then he did that, and look how effortless this was. Things
the way
that
he used his body,
all of us,
it's so good.
Just the touch here, the movement there, and he gets derided for misplacing passes. And I just think his misplaced passes at times are because he sees things that players that he's playing with aren't on the same level as. And
I call that the Chris Brunt effect. That was the first time I ever saw that type of thing. Chris Brunt used to play these beauty balls through to the striker, and they were never ready for it because they'd be like, "You're not going to get that through there." He did.
Yeah, it'd be great. And I think Harpo Speaks has just put in the comments that he loved having Charles alongside him last season. Our challenge isn't necessarily to manage Barry Bannon. Our challenge next season is to find somebody that can go and complement him. And if we can do that, that middle of the park, I think will be all right. Do we need to manage his minutes? Maybe. We've got players like Modric that are playing at 40 years old in Madrid. I get it's a different sort of standard, but we've got Ronaldo still playing at 40. Barry Bannon manages himself. He doesn't get injured often. He is a little bit older. Yes, his legs are going to go a little bit, and that might mean that we have to change the way he plays in terms of his physicality. But his technique is still the technique that he's got. He can still do it. It's still there. Let's get people around him that can make him the talisman that we have heralded as long as we had. And let's just see if we can build that team that we're going to need next season, because of the circumstances that we're going to find ourselves in. I think he's a key player for us.
I just move on from Bannon. Sorry, Dan. Tom Matthews, please comment on how much does a 25-year-old Bannon cost nowadays? And then James come back with, we did get 25-year-old Bannon on a free.
Yeah, but nowadays.
But nowadays, I know. 10 years later, I know.
It's us getting 25-year-old Bannon on free, for me, was like getting James Ward-Prowse at 25 on a free. I think it was that type of signing. And then we didn't know what to do with him for 2 years. We stuck him out on the left wing. And then now he's become our absolute talisman. But Ash, I want you to wrap this up and then go into the comments. You've got the deciding vote.
What with regards to
the hot topic that we're talking about?
Well, this is my question, my thoughts sparked the hot topic. So
it was. Sorry, yes.
I think.
Oh, it's me, isn't it?
It's you. Yeah.
Is it me? Is it? I don't.
Get yourself ready, mate. Get yourself ready. Get yourself ready.
Dan Fudge of the Wednesday Week.
Hello.
What's your take on this tonight's hot topic?
It's an interesting one. It's a great question. Thank you very much. I feel that, like I said at the start, I feel like Barry Bannon's legs are starting to go in terms of his ability to get a lung full of air. As Stevie says, and he's absolutely bob on, the quality is still there. Like, he is absolutely incredible. But the question I would ask, in order to fall on John's side, and I'm going to get splinters on my ass, is that are we losing a midfielder by having somebody else do his running for him? I feel like it worked very well with Shea Charles last year, but there was times when I wish that we had another midfielder next to Barry who could move the ball. I like an MC. You know what I mean? You have Cam and you have DCM, DMC, right? And I like two box-to-boxers and maybe a DMC behind them and pay 4-1-3-2 or whatever. You know what I mean? I feel like we're wasting a position by having someone young and fast and can get a lung full of air running around Barry Bannon. However, I also feel that we would lose him and his quality if we started managing his game time. I think there was a comment that I saw earlier on and it said something around. It was this one here, and it said it was Izzy, and she said he does so much for us, which is why we miss him so much when he's not playing. We still haven't found a solution, and we really need to think about what that will be. And I think there's been a number of managers that have endeavoured to try and find a replacement for Barry Bannon, and it's just never landed because he is that good. I haven't answered your question. The truth is, I don't know.
Thank you, Daniel.
So I tell you what, actually, Ash, then you could play the thing and say that was tonight. Go on, do it, give it the beans.
What do you want me to? Oh,
go on.
Do I have to?
You're on.
Do I have to? So thank you very much. As you all know, that was tonight.
Hot topic. Brace yourself for another theme tune as well, ladies and gents, because this Monday coming up, if you haven't already filled in the Google form, it's next week's award show. And to give you a sneak preview,
no, don't play it. Don't.
It's coming for you because I'm going to build up excitement. It's that good. It's that good. You can tell I'm not at work.
It's the Wednesday Week Awards. Let's break into song. Who's been good? Who gets the good?
Yes, it's the Wednesday Week Awards, and it's going to have an EDM vibe, apparently, so that's what's happening. So, yes, if you haven't seen on our socials to get the link, fill in the form, join us on Monday night. I'm going to put on my gold sequin jacket. Ash is wearing a bow tie and nothing else. It's going to be absolute banter on toast.
Like Frank Butcher.
Like Frank Butcher, it's going to rotate and everything. That's going to be it. But for the last time this season, I'm going to leave you with this, and I'm going to say, see you later.
Who will stay? Who will be on the way? Contract Tinder. Who will stay? Who will be on the way? Contract Tinder.
Every week, live from 8 p.m. It's the Wednesday Week. Bringing you football analysis.
He came in. I think he scored a goal.
Bringing you banter.
Yeah.
Bringing you responsible life hacks.
Met you wonderful souls at 10 a.m. for some shots.
The Wednesday Week. 1, 2, 3, 4 live. Available on all social medias.
Obviously, this goes out on YouTube and as well as all the other social media out there, podcasts, etc.
The Wednesday Week 24-25 season. Join us.
Put on your podcast.